Look at this. The S&P is about to go positive, maybe down just a point or two. In less than 24 hours, President Trump will use his pen once again to try to get his agenda back on track. He will, as expected, at this time tomorrow, sign an executive order slashing regulations that would have forced states to curb air pollution from being spewed out into the air and water. Now, when it comes to working with Congress in the aftermath of the healthcare debacle, should he embrace the rebellious Republican Freedom Caucus or reach across the aisle and work with the Democrats? Because that, as you know, has been what we're hearing. Here to discuss, we have Paul Bonicelli. He's a former foreign policy advisor to George W. Bush, and Metro Papers columnist Ellis Henican. Good to see you. All right, so all we've heard, unsubstantiated by Mr. Trump himself, but all we've heard through, the chatter, Paul, is that he will reach across to Democrats. That would mean Schumer, Senator Schumer, and it would mean Representative Nancy Pelosi. And it would also mean that John Kasich, the governor of Ohio, was right a couple of weeks ago when he wrote in an op-ed that the only way to get stuff passed is by reaching across the aisle. And he also implored the Democrats to reach across. Paul, does that happen before President Trump reaches back to the Freedom Caucus?
I think it might. I certainly think he will talk about it. This is part of the negotiating style of this president. He is uniquely elected, uniquely qualified to be a disruptor. He's going to do that even if he doesn't actually follow through. And one thing, though, I wonder if it's really reaching out to the Democratic leaders or if it's reaching out to vulnerable Democrats. He doesn't need a lot. If he gets a bill passed with 218 in the House, I don't think he cares that there's a whole lot of Democrats as long as there is enough to make it happen. So I don't know if he's there yet. I think there are plenty of Republicans that hope it doesn't come to that. But he's not going to sit around and fail and not get things through the Congress because a faction doesn't want to do what he wants, whether they're moderates, whether they're Freedom Caucus. He's not going to fail simply because he can't find a coalition. He'll keep looking for it.
Isn't that sad, Ellis, what Paul just said, that a lot of Republicans don't want to see that? I mean, when you go back to the glory years of Tip O'Neill, a Democrat working with President Reagan, Americans did very well when both sides of the aisle work together. I look at this and I think to myself that President Trump is a deal maker, and already Sean Spicer, the press secretary, confirmed just an hour and a half ago in his press conference that a lot of Democrats have called the White House, President Trump, and a lot of his people to reach out and say, all right, let's make a deal.
Boy, those were the days that you're getting nostalgic about, right? Here's my working theory, is that Donald Trump, his fundamental core belief is the greater glory of Donald Trump. And so if that means making a deal with the Freedom Caucus, no problem. If that means working it out with Chuck Schumer, no problem there. Focus on infrastructure, peel off some of the moderate Republicans. Let's go spend $1 trillion getting America back to work. I think that sounds very Trumpian.
Yeah, well, Sean Spicer said it started Friday afternoon when the vote went down. There was no vote. They couldn't even get the vote together. He said as soon as that happened Friday afternoon, Democrats started calling and saying, all right, I'm ready to work with this. Gentlemen, we want to talk about what the president now does. Tomorrow he's expected to sign executive orders that would roll back some of the Obama-era efforts to link future efforts in this country toward fixing climate change, or at least trying and reaching out to the environmentalists. Paul, when you talk about centrist Democrats, you could also talk about Democrats who are in red states, who are in states that like President Trump. Joe Manchin of West Virginia, he will probably love that the coal companies will get a break from pollution restrictions. But how many more of those people does he need?
I don't think he needs a whole lot more. You've got, 8 or 9 states where this has affected, this kind of energy issue affects them a lot, House and Senate people. But above all, what Donald Trump and Pruitt want to do is return energy markets to the free market, as opposed to one of the most ideological crusades of the Obama administration was to insist upon all of these regulations because of theories. And I'm a social scientist by training. Science is not settled. These are political arguments to be had. There's nothing wrong
Well,
with that.
he's going to fail
and I
in
think
California
the president
on
will
this.
make those.
He's going to fail in California on this because California,
California
holds
wants
itself to a different, and thank God, and I can say that because I grew up in L.A., where I used to look out at the Santa Monica and San Gabriel Mountains, and they were brown. You couldn't even see them, sometimes not even the Hollywood Hills, from smog. And then the regulations were put into place, and now you can ask any Californian. Ashley Webster lived there. He said, since then, you can see the mountains.
Yeah.
Well, in a federal republic, that's democracy. So I hope that California and any other state can do what they want to do. But nationally, I think the president is exactly right, and I hope he'll follow through.
Ellis?
Yeah, but hold on a second. I mean, first of all, air pollution doesn't live by state borders. It's going to flow all over the place. As long as we're being nostalgic today, I remember when Republicans supported this stuff. I mean, the great environmentalist Richard Nixon was right there saying, you know what, this is something all Americans ought to be able to agree on, that we don't want to throw new poisons into the air to kill us. Come on, shouldn't we get back to that kind of discussion than this pseudo-federalism where he says, well, one state can poison, but maybe the other doesn't have to?
Well, yeah, we know that smog is fungible. It comes from China, comes from
Thank you.
California, wherever. Listen,
Thank you.
great.